Today I want to talk about grenades. Ever since the thermite buff, it's pretty much reigned king. The meta has been around thermite grenades. Now a few people do still prefer other grenade types, but for the most part, pretty much everyone is out here using thermites. So I was reading a Reddit thread where someone said due to everyone using thermites, they're really sleeping on the TNT dynamite grenade. And I thought, well, maybe that's true. Like, I really haven't given it a shot because I only use thermites, so I want to see, is it really kind of a sleeper hit? Is it as useful as the thermite? Is it maybe meta and no one knows it yet? A couple quick things up front. If my voice sounds a little weird, I'm sorry, I'm still recovering from being sick, so bear with me, please. And of course, with any meta discussion or what weapon is best or anything like that, keep in mind it's all opinions and you should play the game however you want. So with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the history of grenades before we get into the meat and potatoes of the TNT. And I guess I should Google really fast, is it TNT or is it dynamite before I keep saying the wrong thing? So apparently it's dynamite in game, so let's talk about the dynamite. So in the past, grenades were less impactful. You basically, when the game came out, you had two options. You could either use the impact grenade, which is what everyone preferred and thought was meta, or you had the high explosive grenade if you preferred things that didn't go boom right away. And then they introduced the incendiary grenades, and fire was bugged. So there was like this back and forth where incendiary grenades were super powerful because fire was doing way too much damage, and then that got fixed, and then they were worthless, and then they buffed them up, and they were okay for hordes, but most people kind of stuck to the impact grenades. The only time it really got shooken up was when they introduced the stun grenades, because they couldn't close bug holes, but it really changed the way you could play the game. You could throw the stun grenade and stun the big guys, move around them, take them out. It was really useful on the bots for taking down like the hulks because you could maneuver around them. You could stun chargers and maneuver around them. So when the stun grenades came out, that really became a favorite meta for a little bit. And then thermites came. And my Helldivers history is a little bit murky here. I don't remember if it was a bug or they were just too weak, but they were basically useless. Like, you could throw one at a Hulk and hit it dead on the head, like right on the eye, and it wouldn't take it down with one grenade. They were just hated. They were no good, they weren't doing what they were intentionally meant to do, and I can't remember if that was a bug or they just were too weak, but either way, they were worthless. And then in true Helldivers fashion, they kind of overcorrected way too far. When they rebalanced grenades, they kind of changed the way the fire worked on them, they buffed some other guys up, but made thermites way too useful. They could basically one-shot almost every enemy in the game. And that's how they became the meta, was, okay, you can take down most enemies in one hit, they stick to them, so you don't have to worry too much about like them moving out of the grenade radius, and it has a small enough explosion radius that even in close quarter combats, you can throw it on a Hulk, just run around it, and you'll survive. And it became the meta because of all those great perks of it. And they've released a few other grenades since then, and they've all basically been met with, meh, why would I use that when I could just use a thermite, right? We had the throwing knives, which everyone thought were really cool, but they ended up being worthless. You have the seekers, which were kind of like a cool little, like, hey, this is kind of a cool toy, but not nearly as useful. Then you've got the fireworks one, I can't remember what it's called because it's not relevant. Basically, nothing has been able to dethrone the thermite, because again, it's got so many perks and so few downsides, why would you use anything else? But let's talk about the dynamite fitting into that now. So the dynamite doesn't do as much damage as the thermite grenade if you look at just like the pure numbers it tells you in game. But the difference is it has a much larger explosion area. So even if it doesn't do as much damage to a single target, it can do much more damage overall in a radius. It has a fairly short fuse timer, so if you toss it at enemies, chances are you're going to get those enemies. The only one that really ran out of the radius for me was when I was fighting chargers and I would throw inappropriately and it would miss because of that, but that was a skill issue. That's not a fault of the grenade, that was a me issue. So I tried the grenade on two different fronts. I tried it on both bugs and bots to see, could this be as good as the thermite? And in all honesty, I think it could be, but I just don't see myself using it as much as thermite. It has a high skill ceiling, I will say that, because if you can learn how to cook the grenade for a long enough time and throw it so that it always hits, it can take down hulks and stuff, chargers, with one hit, just like the thermite can, while also having the benefit of taking out other enemies, which is a bigger benefit. However, because it has that bigger radius, if you drop the grenade for any reason, it's basically a guaranteed death sentence. For example, here I am charging it up to throw at this guy to take him out, and one of the grenades blows up. I did cook it a little bit, but I even tried the jetpack away, and there was just no way, even if I hadn't cooked it at all, with the recovery time, I don't think I would have gotten out of the radius in time. And again, because of that huge radius, you can't really use it in close quarters. Like when you're fighting chargers, like if you throw it at your feet, you have a good chance of blowing yourself up. Whereas with the thermite, you toss it on the charger leg, you run away, and it will eventually go down. With these, you have to be a little bit more cautious about what you're doing and what you're thinking. And while I do list that as a con, when I talked about skill issue, that really does come down to, like, if you spend enough time with the grenade, you can mitigate those costs. You can say, okay, well, I know how to use these grenades, I know how far away I need to be, I know how much to cook them, those sort of things. It could get better, but my thought is, why would I spend all the time investing in learning those things to make the grenade work as good as a thermite if I could just use the thermite and it already works that good? And in all honesty, grenades don't matter that much, right? Like, you can do a whole match without grenades and you probably wouldn't feel too much of a difference. The thermites just make a few things a little less annoying. Chargers, a little less annoying. Like, okay, I'm going to toss it on the charger, I walk away, I forget it. Hulks, I throw it on the Hulk, I forget it. Having the dynamite means that, okay, I need to think about when I'm cooking it, where I'm throwing it, where are my allies, the explosion radius. I don't want to do all that. I just want something I can set and forget that minorly alters the gameplay. You also get one less grenade. You typically can only carry 3. In this match, I was carrying 5 because I was wearing the special armor just so I could use it a little bit more, because I was trying to, test it out, so I was trying to use it a little bit more. And whether or not that's a downside for you kind of depends on how you play, but typically for what I've seen, most people carry a grenade pistol, so having a few less grenades isn't a huge problem. But if you don't have a grenade pistol and don't have an explosive weapon, then closing bug holes with only 3 grenades compared to 4 just makes it that much more tedious. Again, with all the explosive weapons, you should be carrying an eruptor or a crossbow or a grenade pistol. It shouldn't make that big of a difference, but if for some reason you're not carrying any of those, it could be a little bit more annoying for closing things if you have even less resources than usual. So how does Arrowhead change this? Like, the thermite grenade has been meta for since the buffs, which I think we're going at about a year on that buff. So like, one grenade reigns supreme, you have a bunch of other grenades that are basically useless. How do they change this? How do they make it better? Well, unfortunately, the only thing I can think of is they might need to nerf the thermite to make other grenades relevant. As we've talked about before, when you have a weapon that is so standout powerful, the only things you can do is either nerf the weapon or bring everything else up to that level. And if they brought the other grenades up to the level of the thermite, it might break the game. And if they release another grenade that dethrones the thermite, that means it has to be more powerful than all the pros of the thermite, and I just don't see that being a good thing for the game. It just becomes an arms race of more and more power creep. So I think it is time for them to maybe reassess the thermite grenade. Like, if they increased the timer, like if they doubled the amount of timer it took for a thermite grenade to go off, it would definitely make me reconsider using it every single time. Because again, I use it when it's like, oh, this Hulk is too close to me, so I'm going to toss this and forget it, and it'll be gone in a few seconds. But if it didn't get those things off of me quite so quickly, it might not be as useful, and I might consider, okay, I need something a little bit more immediate, like risking using the dynamite or using the stun grenades to get them off of me, and then using other weapons to take them down. So I don't want them to nerf the damage, because if they make it so it takes 2 thermite grenades to destroy anything, well then they're basically useless and it's going to the bottom of the list. But by making it take a little bit more time, we might be able to consider some other options for grenades. The other thing, of course, they could do is allow us to bring multiple grenades, and that would shake it up and allow you to use a lot of different things. But I feel like a lot of people would just carry thermite and stun grenades, because stun grenades are the next most useful grenade in terms of like ability to change the game. And there's a lot of things that still need balancing, in my opinion. Like, grenades are pretty much set. You have a lot of people who only use certain like boosters. There's like 4 or 5 good boosters and the rest are forgotten. So, and that's how it's always going to work in games, right? Humans are always going to take the most effective tactics. They're always going to take what is best, and that's just human nature. So when you can only bring 4 boosters, people are going to flock to the 4 most powerful boosters. And again, if they try and bring everything up to those levels of the most powerful ones, well then everything gets way too powerful, and if they nerf it, well then people complain about nerfs. So there is no perfect solution. And I think grenades are mostly, again, in a good spot in the idea of they're not really all that game changing. You could bring any grenade and make it work. Heck, how many people were bringing the throwing knives when they were useless just to test them out? We still beat the missions. We still got through it. Yes, it was a little bit more difficult. Yes, we had to change some things up, but grenades aren't really that impactful to the overall match. You're still able to get around it even without grenades. So on the scale of things that matter, it doesn't matter too much. But ultimately, I just wanted to test out the dynamite after hearing about how good it was. And my conclusion is the dynamite is pretty good, but I just don't think it's worth the investment to learn to make it as good as the thermite, where the thermite is just set it and forget it and it works on everything, right? You never have to change it. It dominates on the illuminate front because it can take out the spaceships with one grenade. It dominates on bugs because it can take out all the annoying things by sticking to them. And it dominates on bots because it can one-shot most of the bots, and it even helps you with the big war striders that are super annoying. You toss 2 of them on it and you keep going. So it just dominates on all fronts. You never have to change it. You never have to think about it. You just toss it. It just works. There's no real way to do anything about it, again, unless they shorten the timer, or excuse me, lengthen the timer on how long it takes for the grenade to go off. If you've made it this far, as always, thank you so much for watching me. I always appreciate it. Leave a comment down below. It always helps me out, and have a blessed day.